On your in-breath, breathe in suffering in the form of a hot, heavy, smoky breath. And on the out-breath, breathe out cool, light, healing, well-being, mercy.
An old Tibetan Lama who seemed to be rejoicing as his death approached was asked whether he was happy because he was old and ready to die. He replied, "Death itself is the ultimate freedom if we are prepared. If out of fear we deny death's inevitability, how can we prepare for it?"
Often the greatest fear is not of death itself, but the fear of pain. The fear of loss, including the loss of capacity, the loss of relationship, the loss of one's possessions, the loss of status, the loss of a future, and then the fear of the loss of one's identity. Or sitting with a friend who's in intractable pain and being able to presence the truth of their pain and suffering, and to also hold simultaneously the truth that there's something deeper than their pain and suffering. It's a very essential capacity that we as caregivers have to cultivate. Being able to be with the raw truth of our everyday situation as it is, and at the same time in this deep spaciousness where you can perceive the deep spaciousness and basic goodness of another through all of the difficulties. Suffering often brings you into authentic caregiving. It's really important to recognize that and to value, but not overvalue, your experience of suffering, and to put it to use, and to take care of your situation.
It was a really deep requirement to not think, to not come up with an agenda, to not satisfy a set of outcomes requirements. All the things that I so often carry into my work. Mm-hmm. And so my body had to open in a way to her that is not an experience I often have, and it would make a universe of difference in the work that I do.
I find the most difficult part to stay neutral. As you said, stay, just take it in. Don't touch. All I wanted to do is embrace her.
I was going to say, it never ceases to amaze me and how wonderful and comforting it is that when you can touch your basic goodness, how, if you trust that, you can convey it with the simplest gesture, a smile in the eye or in the mouth. Mm-hmm. And how comforting it is that you don't have to say anything and still can convey whole worlds of love.
For some people it's gut-wrenching, but for other people it's a relief. So why do you think it's different for you?
I know that the end is coming, and I know exactly how I want it to come, and it was easier for me for some reason to not get into that place that, where you're just ripped apart.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes if we can't move beyond just telling the story, it may stay right there. And the pain doesn't have the opportunity to be transformed into something else. And that's not a romantic sort of transformation, but it's hard work, as we've been experiencing all through this training, of being able to transform that deep suffering into meaning, into compassion, into self-compassion, where we can really see that as an opportunity to practice, to be present, to bear witness to ourselves and to each other in very, very deep and profound ways.
Most of us are professional caregivers here, doctors, nurses, chaplains, social workers. This is what we do a lot of our waking hours. How do we help clinicians really support them in the development of a contemplative practice? And then how do we help contemplatives develop more clinical sensitivity? And how do we engender those partnerships? And how do we encourage clinicians to enter into contemplative practice just for their own benefit? Just at the simplest level in terms of stress reduction. And so we need something to kind of capture our mind.
And the meditation, in some ways, it's very simple. I mean, we were maybe all told by our mothers at one time, you know, if you're angry, count to 10 before you do something. Very simple, you know, that you've slowed down. And meditation has very practical, simple elements and benefits. And at the same time, it's very profound. And with deepening of practice, it can connect us with qualities of our being and depth of being that give us a profound capacity to be with suffering and to be with life.
As a caregiver, it's all of us. We take in so much suffering and we hold our own suffering, and the ache we speak of, it was such a relief to be given permission to open the heart.
We're here to do the work because the world is depending on people like you. The world needs you. And we've come here because we're all broken, but we have to go back with the resilience to meet the vets, to meet the sense of deep despair that exists in the world, to have some stability within ourselves. You have to really address your own situation, frankly, or your caregiving becomes sick. And a lot of us have to heal our caregiving practice.